Good morning, everyone, and happy Tuesday. I hope wherever you are staying safe and staying warm. I know we're still having some issues over in Texas with water, and I hope that is going to rectify soon. So, what is happening this week? My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey. I am the founder and host of Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, Blended Podcast, which is our new podcast about diversity and inclusion, and CEO of Ships, which is our new technology platform that brings importers and exporters and freight forwarders together to play nice. Anyways, if you want to go check that out, it's ships.com. Let's talk about what's happening on the show this week. So we're going to start off with our episode that released yesterday morning. And I got to talk to Trey Griggs. If you guys have not met Trey Griggs or you're not following him on LinkedIn, you absolutely should. I had a great conversation about what they're doing over at Lean Solutions. And they are solving challenges in logistics and supply chain around staffing, around marketing, around technology. They're using this great technology around RPA. So if you missed it, go and check it out. It's episode 180, wherever you subscribe to the Let's Talk Supply Chain podcast, or you can find it on letstalksupplychain.com/podcast. We also have a really good category filter. See that here? So you can actually search by any topic that you want to learn more about, or maybe a topic that you want to find a solution for the challenge that you're having in supply chain. And that's the category filter right there. Last week, we also released our latest blended episode. And because it's Black History Month, we are talking about the history, the movement, the people. And this was an amazing discussion. I mean, the feedback that we're getting from this episode is crazy. People are touched emotionally. Len, Al, Audrey, JD, Madison really brought it together and brought some authenticity to the discussion around the Black Lives Matter movement. So I really, really hope you go and check that out. You can actually subscribe to Blended separately through Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music. So go and search that out and subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss any upcoming episodes. And then we've got some amazing events coming up. So tomorrow I'm getting interviewed by Sarah Scudder over on the Voice of Supply Chain, which is put on by ISM New Jersey. And we're going to be talking about all sorts of amazing things. We have this post actually pinned to the Let's Talk Supply Chain LinkedIn page. So go and check that out for any of the registration links, because I really hope that we're going to see you at some of these events. On March 4th, we are celebrating Women's History Month with Women in Logistics and the Port of Oakland. We are talking about incorporating empathy and integrity during the pandemic. And we've got some great speakers, and we're talking about how they led through all of the disruptions and everything that happened last year. So I hope that you can come and be part of this, because we had a prep call on this, and I can't wait for them to share some of their stories with you. TPM starts on Thursday. Hopefully I'm going to see you there. They've got a lot of great content happening. Forge is also happening on Thursday, and that's around supplier diversity. I'm going to be moderating a fireside chat all about championing supplier diversity. So hopefully we'll see you there as well. And last but not least, I am also working with 6 Rivers, and I'm going to be moderating a virtual tour and panel discussion coming up on Thursday, March 18th. So again, if you go to our LinkedIn page, you can sign up for all of this through the registration links that we have on our LinkedIn page. All right, it's time for Audrey. Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, good, good. Why don't you introduce yourself for everybody who doesn't know who you are?
Of course. I always forget that. My name is Audrey Ross. I am a logistics and customs specialist at Orchard Custom Beauty. We specialize in cosmetics and beauty tools and bath accessories. We're sort of an award-winning business-to-business private label company. So I do logistics and customs. I've been doing that for a while, 6 years maybe. And that's what I do. 6 years in logistics on whole.
Okay, 'cause
15
you've been
plus
there
years.
for
Yeah, 15 plus years
okay.
at Orchard. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I moved around.
Like it.
I moved around. Actually, it's interesting because I moved around a lot because I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I got the
Yeah.
job as a summer student, and then I tried all these different things. So because I didn't know what job I wanted to have, which maybe is a good segue into the question of the week,
Yeah.
because your question of the week is, if you didn't work in supply chain and logistics, what other job would you have and why?
See, I think
Right?
that's a really good question. I think we should probably
It's
also set the
good.
stage. So we ask a
Yeah.
question of the week on
Oh,
our Let's
yes.
Talk
Yeah.
Supply Chain, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter,
Facebook.
Instagram,
Yeah.
every Wednesday morning. And because you watch Thoughts and Coffee, you're getting a little bit of a sneak peek as to what we're going to be asking you tomorrow morning. I really like this question. I looked at this
Yes.
question. I was like, wow, what would I have done? What would you have done?
Well, when I was like 11, the
Oh,
plan was to be a diplomat at the UN. So that was I was going to be a diplomat at the UN and change the world. And now I think I would probably have gone hard on being an astronaut. So,
yes. See,
yeah.
that's why we're talking about space today. I mean, I'm just letting everybody know on a little secret that we're talking about today. Excuse me. But we are talking about space because that's one of the things that Audrey really, really likes.
It's my dream.
You know what? I don't know
Yeah.
what I would have been. I don't remember
Yeah.
back when I was a child as
Having
to
any,
what I wanted to do.
yeah.
But I did right out of high school apply to be in the police foundations program
Ooh,
because my
okay.
grandfather was a detective in the Scotland Yard in the UK. And
Yeah.
he was a famous one because he was actually written into a book because one of the guys, I think that he saved or something like that, wrote him into a
Ooh.
book. And my grandfather was an amazing, amazing man. And I kind of wanted to follow in his footsteps.
Yeah.
The trouble, though, the problem is I'm
Yeah.
not very good with blood.
Yeah.
So being
Oh.
a police officer, it's probably a good thing. And I probably dodged a bullet because,
Yeah.
I mean, pardon the pun, because I probably would have fainted because I feel like
You like,
yeah, I would
you
faint.
just
Like,
are,
and that
yeah.
wouldn't be a good like police officer detective.
Yeah.
I mean,
That'd be a
if
lot
I
of
could go
time.
straight to detective, maybe,
Oh,
but
yeah,
like
sure.
having
Yeah.
to do like all the police stuff first,
Yeah.
probably not so much. And I
Yeah.
watch a lot of crime shows, so I already feel like I could be a detective. But anyways, like I always predict what's happening at the end of the shows now. Anyways, so I can't wait to hear what you guys have to
Yeah.
say about this. If you want to put it in the comments
Yeah,
today,
you can drop it here too.
as to what you guys would have done if you weren't in logistics. We'd love to hear from you. Otherwise, we are going to drop that question of the week tomorrow morning across all of our social media. And I cannot
Yeah.
wait what you guys are going to be talking about. All right. So we've got a lot of amazing people here, and we've got
Yeah.
some people over on my personal page as well. We've got some new faces. So
Yeah.
welcome, Jack. And yeah, I think everybody's saying hi to each other, which is
Yeah.
great. I do love
I
this
see
program. I
John.
want to learn more about this supply chain management. Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing. And Brenda says she would have been a marine biologist.
Mm.
I love
Yeah.
that. That is a good
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Anyways, all right. So let's get to the question of not the question of the week, my thoughts and coffee post from Sunday.
Yeah.
Did you
Yeah.
have a chance to read this? Because I don't know about you, but I've
Yeah.
had a lot of really, really great feedback on this one.
It's been a big post. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know if you guys know, I don't know if I shared this. I share it a lot on Clubhouse. But I'm taking some sales training with Dan Deegan for Ships, for my company Ships. And we've been doing it live on Clubhouse every Wednesday morning because he's a logistics sales trainer. He's been in the industry for over 20 years and he's really, really good at it. And so we've been doing this live logistics sales training. And I don't know if it was last week or the week before, he talked about this. And I was like, I need to turn this into a post. I feel like more people need to hear this and learn from it. And everybody that I've spoken to, all the people that have commented have been like, yeah, this changes a little bit of the perspective around the tasks that I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And maybe, I need to rethink some of the things that I'm doing or ask some of these questions. So we'll go through that in just a second. But what did you think of the post?
It's funny because a lot of your posts come up and they're very timely for me. So it's either something I've been going through or something that it's like I needed to read that. So, and I'm sure it seems a lot of other people feel that way too, based on kind of the response that you get. But yeah, it's really being cognizant of when you're choosing just to be busy or whether you're choosing things with intention and with purpose. And especially if you're choosing something, I've done this where it's farther out in advance and you're like, yeah, that's great. And then you get to that thing, you're like, why did I agree to this? And so having some idea of what your goals are, being very specific of what your goals are, for me, like it makes it easier to assess when opportunities come up, because obviously it's like, my goal is to try new things. I want to get out of my comfort zone, but then sometimes some things it's like, it just doesn't fit, or it really, I want to help people in the industry, but somehow that's not maybe the best way to do it. If I say yes to all of these individual things instead of maybe finding something that's like a sort of a bigger picture or overarching. But I have to watch myself too, because I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds fun. Oh yeah, that sounds fun. And then like, I get into a week like last week where I had like just meetings or something every single day. And I was like, I'm tired.
Yeah.
How did this work out for me overall? And it's like, did this push me forward? Did this improve the industry? Did that, like, what goal did I realize with just being booked back to back? Right. So I think we do have to be a bit more conscious. And I think you framed it really well. And the questions really helped too.
Yeah, well, I can't really take credit for that. I mean, I wrote the post, but Dan really gave me the inspiration and the content for this post. And AJ, if you're listening, can you drop the link to this Thoughts and Coffee post in the comments, just in case people want to go and check it out, because there's a lot here, right? So we talk about in this post, own the choice. So when we serve at high levels, we get busier, and each task that you take on becomes more important to prioritize, right? What are we spending our time on? What does that look like? And what does that look like for us? So some of the questions that I had put in the post and that Dan had suggested when we were going through this exercise is to ask yourself, why do I own it? Why do I want to own it? I think that question kind of changes the game completely. Why do we need this project? Is it absolutely needed today? So is this something that we have to work on today, or is this something that we can work on tomorrow or maybe next week? Is it meaningful to me, and rating it on a scale from 1 to 20? Will this project help me grow? So will it help me grow in awareness, desire, character, impact? I mean, there's so much more to that, but those are just a few that I threw in there. And then will this help define my leadership or legacy? So go and check out that post. Hopefully it'll help you when you're taking a look at your day and prioritizing what you're doing for not only yourself, but the company, and how you're structuring your day and how you're prioritizing things. Because I think right now, there's so many things coming at us. There's so many things happening. And I think we really need to get, organized and prioritized and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm glad you liked it. It was something that I really enjoyed, and we got some really good feedback on as well. All right. So I just want to say hi to Demo, because Demo has joined us over on LinkedIn, and he's coming in from Panama. So thanks so much for joining us today. All right. So our first article, we are going to be talking about... So I don't know if you guys know Eric Johnson, but Eric Johnson is the senior technology editor at the Journal of Commerce. And he's a really knowledgeable guy. He's been on the show before. You've seen him before on the show. And he writes a newsletter, or a kind of like a blog-ish newsletter, every single Friday. And I find them absolutely fascinating and full amazing tips. So we want you to subscribe to his newsletter. So we're also going to we're also going to cover some of his newsletters in the upcoming Thoughts and Coffee, because he really brings a new perspective on technology, and I think that it's important that we talk about it. And I'm going to do this with Audrey every time that she's on. So this particular one, I don't know what you thought about this, but there was a couple of things that, came to the forefront, and he's talking about startups versus incumbents, especially in technology. But he starts off this article by comparing movie plots to software applications in the logistics space. I mean, if that doesn't get you to want to read this, I don't know what does, because if we're going to compare movies to supply chain and logistics, I mean, that just gets me excited. What did you think about this, Audrey?
Well, I think, Eric is so talented he's a talented writer, obviously. If you're not following him, you have to. But he really brings, he's a bit of an outsider because he didn't grow up, working in supply chain or technology. So he's got this sort of a bit of detachment that some of us who are in it maybe don't have. But he's really able to be compassionate to who's already in the space and who's coming in. And this article really dives into that, and how it's, when startups kind of, startup also sounds a bit kind of cheeky or, radical, right? Because it's a startup, it's new, it's fresh. But, sometimes what happens is startups come up with an idea that maybe has already been tried, and he goes into this here, right? Like what's the difference between, this old versus new debate, and that, there are sort of companies who are stalwarts, who've been in this industry for a long time, and maybe they do need a bit of an overhaul. But then from the startup side, maybe not everything is possible to be changed in the way that a new technology company wants to change it. And so where can they meet in the middle, or where can they bring value to each other without having maybe a combative kind of experience? Because you get that sense too. And we talked about the generation gap a couple of Thoughts and Coffees ago, where you do get that sense sometimes that it's like, I've been doing my job for, I've been around for 15 years, but there's people who've been around for 30 or 40 years, and they get their job done, and they have lots of success at what they're doing. And then sometimes it seems like these newer companies come in and it's like, oh, well, you could do this so much better, or I don't know why you're stuck doing it with like this. You're like, well, for some people that Excel spreadsheet works. It works. It's guaranteed to work, and you don't have to think about my shipment getting off the rails, right? Because it works. So, that hurdle of change and moving to the future versus maybe being disparaging on the past experiences. And I think he just sums it up so well and articulately that I'm not doing here because I haven't had enough coffee, but read the article.
He does really well. And one of the
such a good job. You're just like, yes, like you read a paragraph, you're just like, yes, exactly.
So the question we're going to throw out to you guys right now in the comments section is, is the technology market around logistics and supply chain exciting or confusing? We want to hear from you, because he actually ends this article talking about how the market is so exciting, but it's really, really confusing to a lot of people. So we want to throw that out to you while we're having this discussion. He also talks about some of the startups coming into the space, taking old ideas and reconfiguring those and putting them on the market as new. And a lot of their explanation around that is because they're bringing data, they're bringing machine learning, they're bringing AI to the table, whereas previously, potentially when that technology came out the first time, we didn't have access to those. And so those are really reshaping a lot of the ideas that are coming to the forefront as far as technology and logistics and supply chain. He also quotes a really good friend of the show, Robert Garrison from Mercado Labs. And, I thought I loved his quote. And he talked about how Rob brings to the table experience and perspective from a variety of different angles into
Yeah.
what they're doing at Mercado Labs as a technology in the space. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was really, really cool. So yeah, we've just posed that question. Is logistics software confusing or exciting? We'd love to hear from you. So make sure to share your comments. All right. So I guess we're going on to our next article, which is
All right.
totally up your alley.
It is.
And we are talking about space once again. I don't know
Yes.
about you, but I feel like we're hearing a lot more about space in logistics and supply chain. And so also go ahead.
Yeah, well, in the last 2 or 3 years, NASA has opened up to private contracts. Because before, everything around space was like, it was like government only. So like Russian government, Chinese government, European Space Agent, like it was space agencies who were run by governments. That was it. And it's been in the last, 3 years that, or 4 years that Elon Musk has jumped into the space, that other private contractors have really leveled up. And not that these government agencies didn't use a lot of private contractors before for like the construction and the builds and things like that. But like you're really seeing this government private partnership. So that's really why it's kind of leapt to the forefront.
Yeah. Yeah, no, absolutely. And one of the questions we're going to ask you around this article, and we're going to put that in the comments, what does this mean for the next revolution of logistics? What does space actually mean for us in supply chain and logistics? We want to hear from you. Share your comments because it's really, really fascinating, right? We're talking about in this article that the exploration to Mars has given us materials for heart surgeries and carbonating beer. I don't know if all of you guys know that, but I definitely just learned that in this article today. But what they're talking about is by repurposing developments for Mars or for space, we've been able to develop products and things that we can use here on Earth as well. Yes. And that's kind of the correlation. But, you know, there are companies out there that are already building zero gravity espresso machines to go up with the astronauts as they are living on Mars and living on the space stations and stuff like that. So what does that mean for us? Because that's one product going in, the space shuttle and going into a space station. And they're already taking a look at Mars potentially being someplace that we could go as human beings, as an additional place for us to potentially live. I mean, this is probably a little bit further out than we think it is. However, what does that mean for us in logistics, right? Because there is a logistics and supply chain component to this. And what do we need to be thinking about in the future?
Yeah. Well, it's such a fascinating shift too, because the article goes into everything to date has been facilitating space to Earth. Right. Yeah. So it's like it's whatever you need to get you up there. And then whatever cool stuff you want to try while you're up there. Because, of course, for decades, they've been doing science experiments and, fruit flies, Girl Guide cookies have gone up there. The Lavazza took their espresso up there. So like you've seen all of this kind of research going on. But it's all been meant to address things back on Earth. And then now you're starting to see this space to space concept of like, now it's like, what is all the technology, products, research, and development for us to go external, like for us to go to Mars, for us to go to the moon? What is it? So now the technology is space to space on its own without really, it's coming from Earth, but like, what is that shift? It's fascinating.
I thought this was funny. Keep coffee, make coffee, and zero gravity espresso.
Right.
Well, at least we know that if we are going to go to Mars, and this is something that we're thinking about doing, at least we know we have coffee.
That was a big concern of mine. Because I'm going to die on Mars. So I would definitely need to be caffeinated. That's my life.
We're having some really, really, really.
Oh, John, that's fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah. And then we've got Rebecca talking about AI. I also want to give a shout out to some of the people on my personal LinkedIn page. JD has joined us this morning. Anthera, and Daniel. Thanks so much for joining us and being part of the conversation today. Mark is saying, excellent article, $366 billion market in 2019. Yeah, so they actually give us a lot of stats around how much money is being poured into space right now. And that's another reason to take a look at this article, just from the sheer billions of dollars that are being poured into everything that's happening. And it's only a matter of time that we're having this discussion in logistics and supply chain boardrooms as to how we are going to position ourselves as supply chain professionals to be part of that next revolution of logistics. Yeah. All right.
Quick shout out to Jack Naish, because he had a really good answer on supply chain technology. So if you haven't seen that one, check that one out. It's a long one. So
it is a long one.
Detailed.
And just to go back to what we were talking about before, thank you, Jack, for sharing that. So next post, we are talking about Walmart. All right. So the question for this segment is around, and I'm going to pose this question now so you can collect your thoughts while we're talking, and you can comment as we're talking about this. Walmart is investing $14 billion by 2022 into supply chain, automation, and tech. My question to you is, Amazon currently does not offer a pickup option as a part of their omnichannel, but Walmart does, and the two are competing very, very heavily. Does the pickup option mean that Walmart is beating Amazon from a consumer perspective because of the options that they're giving you from a last mile perspective? So that's my question to you. Make sure that you comment in the comment section. We will post it up on here because we want to hear from you. I want to know if that's like a game changer, and whether people will buy more from Walmart than they will Amazon. So what did you think about this article? There's some fascinating, gems in here. And so what did you think, Audrey?
I love this. And I'm just trying to think of the name of that thing where, So this harkens back to our first article where we're talking about who's rebranding and repackaging something old to make it something new. And this reminds me when I was a kid where in Canada, I assume in the US too, you could go to something called Consumers Distributing, and you'd place an order on a catalog, right? I know. Like I was a child. I was very little. I was a baby, and I remember going. No. I was like, I went the day before it closed up doors. That's when we went, Sarah. But so it was, Consumers Distributing was like you'd order on a catalog and then you go and pick it up at a plate, like almost like, a package place. You just go pick up what you ordered on your catalog, right? So it's funny to see Amazon and Walmart competing on this very aggressive new technology plan of Consumers Distributing.
Audrey,
but here we are.
Davin says you just aged us all, because I know there's people in the audience that are nodding their head and then going, oh, wait a second. That really dates me.
Were you a Canadian child in the 80s?
This is how you know. If you know what consumers...
This is how you know. And you've got your side part, right?
Well, what I thought was really interesting from this article is they talked about how right now Walmart is doing 1.5 million deliveries a week. That is 7 times more than what they did in 2020. Well, they said last year, and the article is 2021. So I'm assuming it's 2020 and they're not talking about 2019, but they could very well be talking about 2019 because I didn't write the article. But what they're also talking about at the end of this article, they're talking about deliveries into your home. And I know we've talked about this before. We've seen it on some articles before as well. But I wanted to bring it up again because we're talking about last mile. There's some people that are talking about last meter, which really what Walmart is talking about delivering into homes is around this last meter piece. And so how do you differentiate yourselves from a customer experience standpoint? I had Wes, the CEO of Logistics Titans, on the show a couple of weeks ago talking about their new technology in last mile, where the driver has a checklist of things that they have to go through and the customer has to sign off. And a lot of that is being done in healthcare, right? So they're delivering a unit, they're setting that unit up. They have to go through a checklist. But I'm wondering if this is kind of the new technology around that last meter of last mile, if companies like Walmart are getting into we're going to deliver into your home and we're going to set it up for you. So it's a really, really interesting article. They're talking about pairing their stores with their fulfillment centers and their actual stores helping to increase productivity and decrease backlog at their fulfillment centers. Because with all of the orders coming in online, they have to find a balance somewhere. And that's where they're finding the balance is within their stores, but they're also going to have robots going around their stores. So I don't know about you, but going into Walmart to shop and having to go around robots, I mean, we'll see how it works. I think that it's going to be an insurance claim waiting to happen, but I mean, it depends how they set it up, but they said that they've got it going. They're ready to scale. So let's see it.
Well, and it might be that they have more of a storefront for us, and then an expanded distribution center in the back, where the robots are maybe more isolated to that warehouse, and they've changed instead of right now where you literally have employees going around with you. It's the same with you have all the Instacart workers, you have the store employees going around picking and packing orders. Maybe they remove the piece where they're like in the store, or they start doing a bunch of stuff at night too, night shifts. But it's an interesting concept, and it is, like it's twofold, because all of this was mostly accelerated because of the pandemic. Not to say it wasn't there before, that the ideas weren't there before and people didn't want the convenience before, but it really accelerated with the pandemic, where a lot of us have been on lockdowns. Right,
David? I want to see a breakdancing robot in Walmart.
Exactly.
I mean, if they're going to do this and I have to shop with robots, I want to see them breakdancing in the aisles.
I need to dance.
Just saying. Thank you for bringing that up, because I totally forgot about that. But that is my request to Walmart. So if anybody is watching and you work for Walmart, if you could put in my request, I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. Anyways, we are 1 minute over time. Thank you so much for everybody for sticking with us for that extra minute. We love having you here. Thank you so much. I know there's a lot of things that you can tune into on a regular basis, and I just appreciate you all for tuning in to our Thoughts and Coffee every single week. So go out, be amazing. I hope you have a great week ahead, and we will see you next Tuesday with my special guest, Shay Dixon. Thanks, Audrey.